Hi guys, it's Sarah Todd and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about applying to college with a physical disability, how I did it, all the things I had to consider while doing it, and my outcome. So if you're interested in that, please continue watching. So I started figuring out where I was going to college very early on because I knew it was going to be a very big deal for me. Of course, it's a big deal for everyone else, but when you have a physical disability, there are of course things that are going to be harder when applying to college and actually going to college. I looked at a number of colleges beginning in 9th grade through my senior year. I looked at Columbia University in New York, NYU, which is of course in New York, Vanderbilt in Nashville, Elon in North Carolina, Furman in South Carolina, Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. I actually looked there twice. Emory University in Atlanta, Wake Forest University in North Carolina, Duke University in North Carolina, and Davidson College in North Carolina. Now, I am attending one of these schools that I looked at, but I'm not going to tell you which one yet. You can find out at the end of the video. But I do in fact know where I'm going to college right now, which is very exciting. And I will be starting in August. So I literally can't wait. It's only 6 months from now. It's gonna be so fun. But of course it took me a lot to get to where I am today, as it did for all other applicants who are going through the stage right now. But I had a lot to consider with my physical disability being involved, how I was going to be independent while I'm away at school, what schools are best for people with disabilities, and how accommodating they would be, how far away I wanted to be, and how I'm going to get to my college, and all of that fun stuff. So I looked at all of these schools, and I actually found myself checking more off my list than I was adding to my list of schools I liked. I was pretty picky when I was looking at schools. I didn't like a lot of them just for silly little reasons, but I did have a few that I really loved. And my top 3 schools ended up coming down to Davidson College in North Carolina, Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, and Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. When I was looking at colleges, I didn't want to just be like, oh, I can't go here because I have a disability. So I looked at all of the schools as I would if I didn't have a disability, because I really wanted to go to a school that I would have or could have gone to if I didn't have a disability, because I want parts of my life to basically be how they would be in that regard if I didn't have a disability. So I would look at campuses and I was like, okay, if this becomes my favorite school, I'm just going to have to figure out how I'm going to make it work. I wasn't going to be like, oh, I can't go here because I have a disability. I was like, I'm going to somehow make it work. So that's basically what I did. I went on tours like all other students did. And since my disability isn't very obvious when you're just looking at me, I didn't have to worry about the people at the college already knowing I had a disability unless I told them on my application. And I'd heard some mixed things about applying to college with a disability. I'd heard that it can either help you because you're considered a minority, and just to add this in there, people with disabilities are in fact the largest minority in the world. Just a fun fact for you guys today. But I've heard that it could help me because I would get that diversity point, which a lot of colleges are looking for. But I also heard that it could hurt me because colleges might assume that they're gonna have to pay for a lot of accommodations for me per the Americans with Disabilities Act or the ADA, which isn't necessarily true. People with disabilities do need a lot of accommodations sometimes they don't. It really just depends on each individual's disability. And it really is totally unfair for a college to deny or discriminate against a perfectly qualified applicant just because they might need some extra help from the college, especially if they don't know if that student does in fact need extra help from the college. So I was a little worried about this, but I just decided I'm going to fill out the common application, and I'm not going to hide my disability because so many of my interests have come from my disability. Volunteering at the hospital, participating in work with Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I just really didn't want to hide my disability because I wouldn't be able to put a lot of what really represents my true, authentic self on my application. And I didn't think it would be fair for me to have to hide that part of myself when other people can freely speak about many things on their applications. So I took the risk, and I really did include a lot about disability on my applications. For my personal essay, the 650-word essay that goes to every single college I applied to, I wrote a few drafts, but I ended up actually mostly writing about dancing and how I've been dancing since I was little and how my dancing has changed since I've gotten a disability, and how I've discovered my love of choreography because I can't do all the arm movements like I used to be able to. So I've kind of adapted them, and I kind of connected my choreography to how I write books and articles, because I write dances by choreographing them, and I write stories and articles. So I try to be really clever with that, and that was my main Common App essay, and I was very proud of it. I was worried about there being some possible discrimination against me, but as you know, it all works out. So I'm very happy about that. There was a question on one of my applications about extracurricular activities, and I wrote about my books, and I really can't write about being an author without disclosing my disability, because my books are in fact about my journey with disability. So I did put that on there as well. I feel like a lot of these concerns are really unique to me as a person with a physical disability, because there are many people with physical disabilities who can't hide it. They go on a tour of college and they're using their wheelchair, and it's obvious to the admissions team that they have a disability, and that's that. So it doesn't really matter if they put it on their application or not. But with me, I had the option of not disclosing that information. So that's why my situation is extra unique, because I actually could have hidden that information. But of course, everything worked out. So I was very happy with how my application turned out. Felt like it was very good. I, of course, didn't overload it with disability. I included a lot about disability on there, but I also included tons of other things about myself so that the admissions team really knew a ton about me and they didn't just see a girl who has a disability. So even though I was really open about my disability on my application, I didn't go into the nitty-gritty details of it because I didn't think that they needed to know all that until they actually let me in. Because I know wherever I go, I will find a way to be independent. And at the end of the day, they didn't really need to know the specifics of my paralysis and things like that. They did know I have a disability, and that's how my application ended up being. So I spent a ton of time on my applications. I wrote my first Common App essay draft July last year, and I submitted my first application in October. Although, like I said, I did write a lot of Common App essays to see which one I liked the best. The one that I wrote in July ended up being the one I submitted, and it was heavily edited and changed a lot, but a lot of it was still the same. So I will tell you now where I applied and where I'm going and how that all worked out. So I applied early decision 1 to Davidson College. When you apply early decision, that lets the college know that this college is your first choice. And if you are accepted, you have to enroll. So Davidson did become my first choice. I loved it so much. It's just a very small school. I wanted a small environment so I could be close to people. They seem to really care about who you are as a person and not just about your grades. It is very hard to get in there. The acceptance rate is 20% or so, but I really love the school. So Davidson ended up becoming my first choice. Johns Hopkins was my first choice for a really long time, but then it became my second choice. So I applied regular decision to Johns Hopkins, and then I applied early action to Furman because Furman was my third choice, and Hopkins didn't have an early action option, which is where you're not committed to the school, but you just know earlier than you would with regular decision. Furman had the early action. I was like, I can know a little bit earlier. So I applied early action. And then I applied early action to the University of the South. I never visited that school, but I felt like I might like it, and it was kind of a good backup if something happened. And then I also applied early action to Elon University, which was kind of my other backup school. So I ended up getting in early decision to Davidson, and I'm so excited. So in August, that's where I'll be going. I'm very excited. So I'm just happy that I'm going to be able to be independent and live on my own. I won't be too far from home, only about 4 hours, so I can drive or fly, which is perfect. And I can't wait to have so many new friends and just have like a close community and get to study what I want to study. And I'm so happy with Davidson for being accepting and just being open to having a disabled student on campus, because I think that's really great that they're just such a sweet school and the people there are awesome and caring. And I know there are students there who have disabilities already, so I wasn't worried about it with them. So it's very nice that they were open to having me and they really liked my application, and they've already been helpful with helping me figure out how I'm going to live there and everything. And yeah, so I'm kind of figuring out more of the nitpicky things for how I'm going to be independent, but I know it'll all work out. My mom is not coming to college with me, although she likes to say she is as a joke, with some truth to it, but she's not. I'm going on my own and I can't wait. It's going to be so fun. So I'm really happy everything worked out. It was a very tedious process. It took forever, so much work, so much stress, and just wondering how everything was going to turn out. But at the end of the day, I'm just so happy that I'm going to be attending Davidson. I literally can't wait for this new chapter of my life. I'm counting down the days for high school to end because I'm just so excited. And I'm really proud of myself for getting it all done, and also proud of Davidson for just being amazing, accepting, and such a great school. So this is what it looks like to apply to college with a disability. It can be extra difficult and challenging, but I'm confident for you guys, if you have a disability, that it'll all work out. And if you don't have a disability and you're applying to college, I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope you get in where you want to go. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I just kind of wanted to share my experience with you guys because I'm so excited, and this topic isn't really talked about too much, so if you have any questions for me, please feel free to comment them and I'll be happy to answer them. And I will definitely be making more videos on college once I get there, and probably even before I get there, kind of showing you my plans for how I'll do everything on my own and be independent and everything. So thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe to my channel because I'm really trying to post more. Because it's just kind of fun showing you guys about my life and raising awareness for disability, all those fun things. Please follow my Instagram. I have my username in the description below. Thanks guys, have a good day. Bye.